Hello, welcome to The Real Deal with Sean Matthews, where we have real conversations with real people, entrepreneurs, and business owners alike. Today, I have another special guest on here. Hayley, actually, her and we met at a women's networking event, and she was actually one of the guest speakers on, and really resonated with her story, and really wanted to connect with her and share what she has created and what she does for other women and men. So Hayley is a mother of two girls. When she was 20, her yoga teacher used to say to her, "What we fear, we attract or create." And this often rang in her ears when at 6 months pregnant with her second child, Hayley lived to see her worst fear come true. With a 1-year-old and a baby on the way, their father told Hayley he had never loved her and walked out the door. As Hayley fought the fight of her life against an outcome she couldn't bear, what ensued was over 4.5 years of hostility and pain. Hayley and her ex attended court at least 9 times and mediation at least 5 times. Hayley often wonders what good could have come of it if the whole time and public and private financial resources that has been spent on dividing up the children after separation have been spent on helping those parents stay together in the first place. We seem to have our priorities so wrong. However, Hayley acknowledges some things are out of our control and not all relationships can work. In these cases, Hayley wants to empower people going through a separation with practical steps that they can take to minimize stress, reduce the cost, avoid things that might exacerbate the trauma, and move through the process of their healing. Welcome, Hayley.
Thanks, Sean. And I remember you from the day that I was giving that speech because you were sitting in the corner and sort of nodding and smiling. And it's funny how when you're speaking, you sort of pick out friendly faces in the audience to kind of comfort you and ground you. And then I found out afterwards that you were a counselor, and I thought, oh, of course, she was the person that was sort of warm and made me feel like relaxed about my speech. So thank you for being such a lovely audience member, and thank you also for having me today.
Oh, thank you, Hayley. No, you inspired me as much as that's why I was nodding, acknowledging, because I was actually hearing every word you were saying, and it really touched me, and I'm sure it touched everybody in that room. So thank you for sharing that story, and thank you for being on today. We don't need to dig deep really into your story, but it does inspire people, so it's good to share a little bit of aspect on yourself and your children. And I just wanted to know, you started from that separation stage. What got you started in this business that you're doing now? And can you name the business and what your vision is for this business?
So the business is Partier, and the idea is that we provide a checklist of steps that people should take in the immediate aftermath of a divorce or separation. So it can be that it's not expected, so you're maybe in a state of shock. Even if you did expect it, it's often something that you've never been through before, so you don't necessarily know what to do, and it can be a steep learning curve, and people don't always have the time to learn everything about what they should be doing because, you may have young children or, even the jobs that you may be used to share in the household. Somebody used to mow the lawn or somebody used to change the light bulbs, those sorts of things. You then now take on that additional role. So you've got the learning curve of how to do those things that weren't necessarily in your skill set. So there's a lot going on, and it just seemed to me that it would be perhaps helpful for somebody to sit down and just give you a list so that you can go through it and have peace of mind. Oh, yes, I thought of a lot of these things and I already did them, because a lot of them are just going to be, common sense. But there may be a few things on there that, oh, I didn't think about that. Yikes, let me quickly go and do that. Or, no, I don't know how to do that. Do you know someone that you can refer me to that can help me with that? And in that way, after they have that session with us, they can walk away feeling organized and empowered to the extent that they can be empowered, because, you know, especially if it's not your choice, it feels like a lot of your life decisions are being taken away from you and you've got no control. Whereas this way you can sort of be on the front foot and take a bit of the control back of the things that you can control. And then after that initial session, the idea is to go and do a soak session with your support person who's hopefully been with you for the checklist, because, you know, if you're taking a lot of information in and you're overwhelmed and stressed, and it can be too much. So your support person's there to also kind of register the things that you may miss. And then you go with that person to a soak session to debrief and also just to get that first, you know, stage of me time and setting aside time for you. Because when you've got so much on your plate and you're worrying about potentially money, or you're worrying about your children or things like that, you don't necessarily prioritize taking time to do kind of comforting, healing things for yourself. But it's so important to do that work, because if you don't do it, it can sort of catch up to you, and it's just crucial that you set aside that time.
Yes. So what do you mean by soak session? Can you describe what a soak session looks like?
Well,
and what is it exactly, for viewers and for listeners that don't really know what it is? Did you make that up, that term?
No,
I've never heard that.
Business here on the Gold Coast is called Soak Bathhouse, and it's at Mermaid Beach.
Oh,
and
I've been there.
Yeah, so when it happened to me was that my I found out from some of the other mums at school that the father of my children had been on a date with one of the other prep mums, and I just was like, oh my gosh, now I'm gonna have to see that mum every afternoon after school when I pick up my kids. Like, it was just too much close to home. And my sister just turned around and bought me a $155 voucher to go to Soak. And it was just like, you know, let's just not even worry about all this stuff and just go down to Soak and just, you know, do something nice for me, so that if I miss out on a kid's birthday party with my kids because it's not my weekend or whatever, oh, well, I won't be so worried because I've got a horse riding lesson booked, or I've got something nice for me that I can feel good about. So that's kind of where it came from. It's like, okay, it doesn't have to be Soak, you know, it depends totally what you're into, but just that was something that we thought would be just a good foray for our clients, and then from there they can decide, you know, what works for them. I know I've also often go after a mediation one day. That was the first time I went to that. It's the city caves, and you can floating, and it's sensory deprivation, and you lie there in a dark room and just float for an hour in this like heavily salted bath. And for me that was such a good thing, like after a mediation, to go and just lie there and just not do anything other than kind of meditate, I guess, and process and relax your body. So I highly recommend all of these things. There's also, you know, you get massages at I think it's the French Beauty Academy. The students there are really good, and it's cheap to go down. You can spend, you know, $20-$30 for
I've heard that. I've heard that.
So that's another good thing. Like, just anything that you can do to kind of feed back into yourself, because a lot's taken away.
So with your business, do you have this checklist, and then you just suggest you need to do a little bit of self-care, and they can choose what they do, or do you have a list of businesses that that you can, or that
we
you're
may get to that
with?
point. Yeah, we may get to that point. At the beginning, for now, it's just that we purchase that for the clients. It's included in the fixed fee for the initial consultation. That as part of that fee, we buy them and their support person a 90-minute soak session. So
nice.
Yeah, but I mean, it may be that we branch out to other places if we get feedback that, you know, different clients would prefer different activities and things.
That's great. That's really good, adding value to your service, which is amazing. I just wanted to know, with the separation, the people that you work with, are they men and women? Are they the couples together? or the couples that are
Well,
separating, or
either men or women. Again, things evolve and change, but at the time, it's just one of them. So, either before the separation has happened, here's the things that you might have to start thinking about if you want to get organized before it happens, or after it's happened, come as the, first step immediately. Like, I remember with me, the first thing I did was I went over to the neighbor's house, and sat with her and her little baby, because I didn't want to be alone, but I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And that was, maybe very comforting at the time, but it wasn't necessarily proactive. If you go, you're going to do something, come see us straight away, and we can refer you to, psychologists, or refer you to a lawyer, even if you don't, you're hoping that it won't become litigious. Just to make that initial contact with a lawyer is really helpful, because, for example, with me, when I got served by my ex's father, served me, and my child was 9 months old, I didn't even know what family lawyer to go to. And so I was stressed. You have a month to respond to that, but I didn't know where to even start in that month, which lawyer was good. And therefore, that process of finding a lawyer took some time. And then by the time you found someone, then you have even like 2 weeks to respond. So it's very stressful, all those little things. Whereas if you know these things, if you've gone through the checklist with us, and you know that is a potential stressor, you can head that stress off at the outset by just making contact with a lawyer, so that if you ever get served, you can say, I've already met Kate at such and such firm. She's lovely. I can go straight to her and I can hand this over to her, and the sense of overwhelm is taken away. So that's kind of what it is at the time being. It's just either men or women, one at a time, like one person of the relationship, and either before, if they're planning it, or after, if they've just experienced the separation.
And it can be really challenging for a lot of people going through separation. Obviously, your experience, I haven't had that experience, but for people that are listening and viewing, what would be something that you would say to somebody that would come to you about going through the separation, and they're looking for a lawyer, and they're going, okay, where am I going? What should I expect from you? And how are you going to help me?
Do you know, I would love to speak to the people that have left, because, they say that before somebody makes that decision, they've really grieved and processed it for a really long time. And so they kind of are a lot further along. That's accepted, I think. I mean, you're the counsellor, not me, but I think that's generally accepted, that they've gone through a lot of their grief process. I think that the person who has left can really think back and think, how long had I been going through that grief process? And therefore, let me give my ex the respect of that same length of time, at least, to grieve before I start pushing. Because I remember I was lying in the hospital bed, hooked up to monitors and everything to test my baby's heart rate, and I was getting contacted by mediators to mediate, and it was just too much too soon. There's no regulations about how quickly mediators can contact parties after a separation. And if you don't agree to a separation, a mediation, a mediator can issue a Section 60A form that allows the person to initiate court. So there's a lot of pressure that you have to agree to a mediation, otherwise you might end up in court and you don't want to. And at the same time, you're not ready yet. If the other person doesn't give you time to grieve, it's really lead to a lot worse outcomes, because if they haven't grieved, they're not ready, their response is just going to be no. And you find a lot more pushback and a lot more tension. That would be my first thing, is just encourage the people that have left to allow the other person the respect and time to grieve. And then to where possible, take accountability and apologize. If somebody feels a genuine apology, then I think that they can forgive more easily. And I think if you can get that foundations established, then all the other discussions around, the children and the finances and everything will be easier. Whereas a lot of the time, a lot of the pushback come from, well, there's an underlying issue here that somebody's really hurt the other person, and that's not being resolved. You're trying to resolve everything, but you're not resolving the actual issue.
Yeah.
And I find that in mediation, because I have been a mediator for family disputes, we don't have a lot of time to deal with a lot of these other issues, and so we're just putting band-aids on, but without the underlying issues being resolved, it really doesn't cause a more permanent resolution. There's some even things like women who have come out of relationships where the woman alleges the husband has been sort of controlling over her friendships and things. And so they've separated now, and I've had cases where the woman then doesn't have any friends because she only spent time with the husband's family and friends. It's clearly an issue, that this woman needs help with establishing friendships, with getting a job, with all of that. But the time that you have in mediation is so finite. No one wants to deal with that. That's out of our purview. All we're talking about is where the kid's going to be and what time, and and it just feels.
So it's the surface level things, whereas you go a little bit deeper, don't you? And with or that's what you're going to be doing.
That's what we're hoping for. Mediation is meant to be holistic, but it doesn't seem to be able to. So the aim is to get somebody's life, like a picture of their life and their situation, run them through a checklist, and then say, okay, well, we think it sounds like you might benefit from counselling. Sounds like you need to communicate with a lawyer, and then maybe they can liaise with each other more effectively, either through us, or you can, talk to us about how it would all work, so that if the lawyer says, hey, potentially we could, mediate on this day, we can talk to your psychologist and say, well, does the psychologist think that you're ready, or is it possible to request that the other side give us another couple of months because you're not, you're really still struggling, that we can sort of get that more holistic feedback from all the different parties about what the best strategy is to work through this, avoiding court, because court is so expensive. And I heard that at law school, but it was only once I actually went through it myself. It's hundreds of thousands of dollars, and what they're ultimately trying to get to is a cookie cutter solution that's predetermined in the legislation. And you want to go to court to get all these other things, like, I had one lawyer say to me, you have to understand what the family court is not. The family court is not there to, give you validation that you went through a certain experience. The family court is not there to call that person out and say, you did that was wrong. Or there's no justice. There's no sort of like any of those things that you might be looking for. That's not the forum. All the family court is there to do is to say, okay, well, who gets X dollars, who gets Y dollars, when are the kids with X, when are the kids with Y? That's it.
So it's the black and white. Yeah, of course. There's no gray area.
So much time and money is spent on people looking to get different things from the court system that the reality is you're never going to get. And how can we get people from the get-go, before that even happens, the right channels to get the right help in the places where they might potentially get what they need and what they're looking for in a better way.
I love everything you've just said. It's just so amazing that you're a woman that has lived through it, but also has the law degree to back yourself and all that experience to help other people and collaborate with other professionals to give those people that are going through that separation, or that relationship with them, to really help them before, as you said, go to court. Because I can imagine I can't say it for myself. I know it from my fiance's perspective because he had to go to court with his ex. But you know, it's a hard yard, and it could last for months, which is amazing that you are there for their stepping stone to help them before it even gets so bad.
Yeah, yeah, and I just recently gave a podcast for Lawyers Weekly talking about Tarr Law, my law firm, but
Yeah.
it mentioned Partier on there, and I've had a lot of feedback from other, oftentimes women who are starting innovative and different family law resources, because I'm not the first person to think, oh, this is, you know, problematic how the system is working.
Yeah.
And that the thing is that it's everyone comes up with a slightly different solution to it, but I love that people are coming up with solutions, because it's no good to just sit there and say, oh, well, the family law system is terrible and it's broken and all of that, because, you know, well, then what are you going to do to fix it? You know, a lot of smart people are trying to think of how to fix it, and it's still like not very good. So I guess I wanted to try and do something positive to fix it, but I've seen that there are definitely a lot of other organizations. There's one lady, she has an internal system. So they are a law firm and they provide family law advice, but they also have a psychologist as part of the firm, and they have yoga as part of the firm. So like it's all an internal thing. Ours is different because we don't provide any legal advice. We just provide a checklist and then we refer you externally. So that may for different clients. For example, like if you already have a wills and estates lawyer that you really like, then we just have it on our checklist. We'll have you change your will, and you say, oh, yikes, no, I hadn't thought of that. And you can go to your lawyer that you like. Or, you know, you might not have a lawyer, but you can go to the best of the best that we can point you to, rather than saying, oh, well, we have it all here, so you just got to have whoever we've got, you know, like we can to whoever we know that is really good in the industry. So I'm really hoping that it turns out to be something that can help people. We, as I've said on the Lawyers Weekly podcast, we have had a lot of positive feedback just from people saying, oh, I wish I had that when I was going through my separation. So it does sound like it's something that people who have been through it would have appreciated when they look back in retrospect. I guess it's just going to be that people at the time of going through it have that foresight that, hey, this is something that could help me and I should do it. Because, you know, you just don't know anything about what you should do and just at that time, you know, until you've been through it and you look back and think, oh, that would have helped.
Yeah, exactly. And that's probably why you got into this business in the first place, because you wanted to learn more and help more people and allow people not to do or go through what you went through. Would I be right in saying that?
Yeah, I'm sure I made a lot of mistakes, and I think, you know, a lot of things I learned slowly along the way. So because my children were so little and I had never wanted to send them to kindy, I sort of just did all the handovers directly myself, and it was very traumatic. And it got to the point that my legs were shaking every time I did a handover. And then I went to a mediation, and the mediator said, you've got to send these kids to kindy because it'll be better for them, because they're not going through that direct, you know, handover process, and it'll be better for you. And so I enrolled them to kindy, and I thought, oh my goodness, you know, what a relief. I'm happy to hand them over to these kindy teachers. They're happy to go. I'm not, you know, shaking from head to toe. And then Dad picks them up a couple of hours later. Like, I don't know why on earth I didn't do that years before, but it was just, you know, just having that encouragement of someone who knew that would help me. And so, yes, I'm sure there's a lot of things like that I thought, if only I realized that sooner, I probably would have saved myself a lot of stress. Just little things.
Well, it's amazing you learn, don't you, on this journey of life, which is fantastic. The next question I really wanted to ask, well, a couple more before we finish up, was how can people contact you? Do you have a website, or do you have an email, or what's the
We
best way?
do. So the website is Partior,
Yeah.
partior.com.au.
Okay.
And the email address is just info@partior, partior.com.au.
Okay.
They can call me or text me. My phone number is 0437 0477 914 319. And
It's
then
okay.
they
I'll
can.
put it in the show notes.
Oh,
Yeah,
great.
I'll put
And
it in
they
the
can
show
reach
notes.
out.
I'll put your details so everyone can contact you. Anyone can contact you if they need some help or if they know somebody that needs your help.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
that's the thing. We put on our website that you can purchase a gift voucher for a loved one because, for example, if somebody has cancer, like a lot of people want to support them through that process. And, there's a few websites now that are centered around like taking it in turns to cook that person a meal for the night or do certain things that the person might need.
Yeah.
When somebody goes through a divorce or separation, it's similar to that. Like you need people to step up, and people want to step up, but they don't always know what to do. So
Yeah.
we thought, okay, well, this is something loving and caring that you could do. If you hear that your girlfriend just went through a separation, then 5 of your girlfriends could band together, each put in a little bit of money each and buy somebody at a session at Partier, and then one of the girlfriends chooses to go as a support person, or the rest of them can also independently just buy a soak session, and they all go down and have a glass of champagne and a 90-minute soak. Like
Yeah.
they can.
That's fantastic. I love that. And I think
Yeah.
every woman would love that too. Just just that little things just make such a difference in one person's life. And
they'll never forget it. I know when my sister gave birth to her oldest son, one of the nurses gave her a little pebble, like a rock to hold on to and everything.
okay.
And when I was cross-examined by my ex in court, my sister gave me a rock that day, and I sat there and I was like, playing with that rock. I'm sure the judge thought, oh, this woman's got some sort of problem. She just keeps like doing this with her hands.
Yeah.
But that was just sweet, those little gestures that you just think, whatever I'm going through, because I have this, I know that somebody loves me and they're there with me. And I feel like that could be totally the same for this, for this soak session and for the party or initial session. And we can help the support person during that session too, to say, hey, okay, this is what you need to do. You need to diary every time that person has a court date, put it in your diary so that you can send them a text message that morning to say, good luck today, thinking of you. Perfect. Because those kinds of things where somebody can just give you that feedback, and it lasts for years, like to be someone's support person through this process is a commitment, because they're really, initially all they want to talk about is the divorce. It's like for me too, you're so obsessed with it, you can't think of anything else, concentrate on it. So you have to be very tolerant of the person, and you have to, it lasts for a long time. But if you hang in there, they'll appreciate it, and you'll have a lifelong friend, and also someone to hold your hand if you ever are unfortunate enough to go through it in return.
Exactly. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? And I love how you collaborate with other businesses and services to help people, psychologists and other lawyers and mediators and things like that. So I just wanted to end on a question here, and I ask all my guests this question. If there was one thing that you would want people to get out of this podcast, what would it be and why?
I guess, that's going to make me upset. I think I would say to any person, woman or man, that has been through this situation is that I understand how difficult it is to forgive, and I'm still working on that process myself. And don't beat yourself up if you're finding that so hard. And I believe that we'll all get there, like we will find a place of peace and forgiveness, but it's just a process.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for being raw and real with me today, Hayley. It's been a pleasure listening to what you do for other people in this community and worldwide, because I know you have another business that's international. And so you're giving a lot of your time. So I really thank you for your time today. And thank you for being so raw today, because I believe that your story and just being you is going to inspire someone. So thank you again for being here. And this is The Real Deal with Sean Matthews, where we have real conversations with real people and entrepreneurs alike. Bye for now.
Thank you, Sean.